Right, today we're going to look at the Humber Scout Car, which in a sense is a relative of the Daimler Dingo, a vehicle with a bit more armour, at least cover, but not so thick as on the Dingo.
Please remember to like, subscribe or click the little notification bell if you don't want to miss out on these videos. And I'd just like to say thank you to all our patrons for making this possible. Please join them if you can.
Now the Humber Scout Car is really, it was produced as an interim vehicle in a sense. The trouble was that the Daimler Scout Car, which you've already seen, which was in much greater demand, they couldn't meet the demand. So the only thing to do was to approach the Roots group to see if they could come up with an alternative design, and this is it. It's not really, it doesn't even compare with the Dingo really, but it's not a bad vehicle as far as they go. It's powered by an 87 horsepower 6-cylinder Humber engine, which they used in a number of their vehicles. Drives forward to a 4-speed gearbox, into a transfer box, but it's only a single-speed transfer box rather than the usual 2-speed ones. And that's how they get 4-wheel drive from it. It's driven on both axles from this 6-cylinder engine in the back. But the vehicle itself is quite big compared with the Dingo. It's quite a large vehicle, longer, it's a good deal heavier, it's over 3 tons, with 2 hatches in the roof, and the armour thickness is only about 14 millimetres all over, which really isn't very much. So they compromise, compared with the Dingo, which is 30 millimetres at the front. 14 millimetres is pathetic, but still, that was what they decided on. It takes a crew of 2 or 3, normally 3, but they don't have an open top like they do in the Dingo. They're completely enclosed in the vehicle. Now they've got a machine gun, as you can see on top. It's a Bren gun or a Vickers K, and you can have actually 2 Vickers K, but it's designed to be fired from inside. You have a remote control and you aim the gun and fire it from inside the vehicle without actually putting your head out, which seems to be more luck than judgment to me, but that's how it was done. And that was a PLM type mount designed to give a remote control fire, but it's the only weapon the vehicle has on it. Now this particular vehicle, it's one of the few in the museum collection which came almost direct from its unit. It was actually the vehicle of a chap called, I think his name was Gull. He was the technical adjutant of the Coldstream Guards, and it's got TA and the name Jack in the Box on the front, which is the name of the vehicle when it served, so it's got the original markings on it. And it was in Guards Armoured Division, and therefore is historically quite interesting for that reason alone. But otherwise it's a typical example. There was a Mark II version of this, but the only real difference was in the gearbox, which had synchro mesh on more gears than on this one. This only has synchro mesh on 3rd and 4th, which is quite handy, but not as handy as having them on all 4. But the Mark II had more synchro mesh on, I think it was on 2nd gear, and it gave it a little bit more, made it a bit easier to drive, but I think the Mark I was the one normally seen, and this is it.
The Tank Museum is a registered charity, and every purchase you make from our online shop directly supports our work. We ship worldwide, and if you subscribe to our email list, we'll give you 10% off your next order. When you finish this video, go to tankmuseumshop.org and you'll find something you never knew you needed.
And what we're going to do is look at it in its post-war configuration, which is slightly different. At the end of the war, most of these were given away. During the war, because they were unarmoured in the same sense as the Dingo, 30mm against 14mm, they were restricted to the Royal Armoured Corps, who used them as liaison vehicles rather than pure scout or recce vehicles. The Dingo was far, far better for that sort of thing, and that was used in this way. The dear old Humber wasn't. It was a liaison vehicle really, but that's how it was operated. They had large numbers of them. After the war, they were given to various nations in Europe, notably the Danes, who fitted theirs with a ring for a machine gun. So it means that one of the hatches must have been removed so that the gunner could get out and fire it. And that is unusual, but that's how they were done. And it gave it a bit more firepower, but not as much effective cover as the ordinary Humber. But the real user was the French. They used something like 70 of them or more in Vietnam in their fight against the Viet Cong in French Indochina. And they fitted them quite amazingly with a machine gun to the left of the driver in the front, and another, sometimes a turret. I never like to call it a turret. It's a sort of dish made of metal which fits on top and has a gun in it. It does rotate like a turret, but I still regard it as open-topped and as being a shield rather than a proper turret. But there we are. It makes the cars quite distinctive. They stand out in a photograph straight away with this structure on top. Now, giving these vehicles 2 machine guns meant that they were intended to fight. And with a rather pathetic armour protection, it wasn't much. But that's how they were used. And they were used by the French in Indochina for some time, until they more or less were driven out by the Viet Cong or Viet Minh. It's an unusual vehicle. There aren't many of them left, but at least you get a chance to see what they're like.